Kia ora koutou, everybody, and welcome to Agility Matters, where we focus on adaptive organizations responding to customer needs and being flexible in their approach to flexibility. I have the honor of showing today Mr. Greg. Greg is a long-term coach with a wide berth of experience. He's the founder of 5am Mr. Scrum, and he's also going to talk to us about a thing called full stack coaching. So if you're on board, let's have some fun and introduce Greg. Hey, Greg, how are you?
Hey, how are you?
So welcome to the show. I'm going to start off with a simple question that I haven't asked anybody yet, but we're going to start doing this from now on. Why does agility matter?
Why does agility matter? Because the whole world changes in an instant. I was out looking at, I do this little good morning video things. I go out to the river here in Philadelphia and take some pictures, and I'm looking at the old docks that the ships were, and it's changed. It always changes. It's there. And look at COVID. Look how much people need to be able to change. I mean, you have to be able to react to environments you have no control over. And agility helps you be prepared for when that happens. Your competition. I know I worked for a big financial firm, and I remember one other company decided they weren't going to charge for stocks anymore. Stock trades, right? So boom, they had to instantly compete against something they weren't planning on. So those are the kind of things why agility matters.
Oh, totally. I totally agree. And so introduce yourself, Greg. Your name's Greg. Greg Mester. Who are you?
Mester, there you go. So I'm Greg Mester. I'm a coach, an Agile coach, maybe sometimes called a full stack coach, like some people had referred to me as, and kind of use it a couple times because I had did some interviews, but worked with everything from defense contractors back when I was a little young guy, and worked with F-18 jet fighters to now I'm doing software and building products and that. So worked in every industry, medical, pharmaceutical, worked with Comcast for a while. So I know the big communication things, you hear about those guys, and just like doing stuff. One of my hobbies I show in a show, I brought this out. I got this giant train, right?
That's cool.
Big shoes. So I do with my kid, because we live in the city. And
you're from Philadelphia, right?
From Philadelphia. Yep. Philadelphia, USA on the East Coast.
US of A. Yeah. I've got to bring it up early, Greg, because the guys are on the call. So kia ora, Edwin, kia ora, Danusha. Who else is on the call? We've got 5 of you, 6 of you, 7 of you now. Put your names up, say hello, get your questions ready. But Greg showed me his wine, and I was like, that's so US of A.
I know.
Come on, Greg.
When you hit the wine, we'll hit that. We'll talk about it. Yeah.
All right. We'll wait a little bit.
Show it.
Show it.
We got the Federalist. It's got let's see if I get it right here. It's got George Washington on it. There you go.
Yeah.
I found that. It's an old red, old vine Zin. My wife is from Lodi, California. So I said, I drink a glass of wine, my wife's wine. So maybe she won't know come tomorrow. You've been drinking my wine. What did you do last night?
That's brilliant. Yeah, and it's 2 a.m. everyone for poor Greg. So let's really hammer him with questions, keep him awake. Kia ora, Andy. Hi, how's it going? Need some wine now? Yes, you're meant to bring wine to the show, everybody. You're meant to bring, I know, I'm actually on the
liquor. Something.
Yeah, liquor. Yeah, it has to be liquor. So, why does agility matter? Great answer. Things are always adapting. Totally agree. And things are going to increase in their need for adaptation later on. We know that. Fourth Industrial Revolution's already here. Globalization's already here. This is going to be a fun ride for us all. So,
not only that, I want to add, I watch companies. They've been doing the same way they've been doing it for so long, but they piled on so much product on top of another product, layers of code.
Yeah.
And they can't keep up making sure the old code works and the new code's working, and their costs are just going through the roof and
Yeah.
they're like, okay, we either lay people off, but you still got to support your what you produced in the past. So agility is really important.
I will grab you on that as well. I totally agree because one of my biggest bugbears is I draw a little triangle, right, for prioritization. Maintenance being the key amount of work you do. You're maintaining your product. If you don't maintain your product, you go under.
Right.
Continuous improvement is the second most important thing because you need to reduce your maintenance. I very rarely get a client that says to me, "Oh yeah, I definitely want to reduce my maintenance." They normally just say, "Can't we just not do maintenance? Can't we just do a whole lot of new stuff?" So why is continuous improvement? Why is reducing that maintenance cost so important to the future, Greg?
Well, I think of it. I worked with one manager and he's asked, well, why do we need to automate our testing? And I go, because you're building a tsunami that's sooner or later going to come over and just destroy you because you have built so
Mm,
much backlog of old regression testing suites that you have to buy. I mean, they're hiring hundreds and hundreds of people in India to do regression testing just to hit the button and manually test things. I said, you can't afford that because the other ones have automated. You're not going to be able to give the same product the same rate to the customer, and you're going to go under. And
totally. Your competitive advantage is actually decreasing and at a rapid rate as well. And it's funny because a lot of C-suite, they get told that they will actually get promotions, they will stay in their role if they bring out a whole bunch of new stuff. And it's like, yeah, maybe you'll do better this quarter, but your company is going under. Like, are you measuring your competitive advantage against other industries? No. Oh, okay. Are you measuring your profits? Yes. Okay.
yeah.
Are you measuring them against industry averages? No. So yeah, I'm with you.
Well, my
So
favorite part was when I worked with financial institutions.
yeah,
And I'm talking, they're not worried about, you're a financial institution. You want to make money, but you're not paying attention to the money it costs you to deliver this product. This is, I got a master's too, and I got a financial certificate. And I'm like, this doesn't compute. I had my own company. I would shoot it was
yeah.
like, how you
Eh,
run this? If this was my company, I'd fire you all.
but that's exactly it, Greg. Because it's not their company, they don't seem to worry. They only care about their own KPIs, not the success of the company. And I'm an ex-accountant, as we said to you earlier on. And some of the guys know I'm an ex-accountant, so I'm that boring person who went from a boring thing to a more boring thing. And I think I'm cool now. Am I cool, everyone? This is cool. I got a cool T-shirt. Look at my T-shirt. So random tangent. But I find talking to finance people really good because, like, I say, look, I'm going to decrease your risks. I'm going to increase your IIRs. I'm going to increase your return on assets.
Mhm.
And they're like, sweet, sounds great. Do whatever you want. Have fun. Hey, Greg, we're getting a whole bunch of questions coming through already.
Okay.
So kia ora, Andy. Kia ora, Flutz. So Flutz is on the vodka tonight.
Okay.
Love it. But they're all saying, what is full stack coaching?
So full stack coaching, and look, I got a whiteboard too.
Ah, nice.
I got a little whiteboard. So full stack coaching, and I'll draw on just kind of mention as I talk about it because you can talk all day, but sometimes it's nice to have a little thing. So what it is like at the person, at the team, and you want to say enterprise, and that's a full stack
Nice.
because, and where I got this from, let's see if we get the reflection. There we go. But anyway, so it's where you are coaching all those levels. And the reason why I say, because each level is different and people don't get that. They think, oh, I'm an agile coach, I can do enterprise. Oh, I'm an agile coach, or I'm a scrum master and I can coach somebody. There's a lot more to it than just doing the mechanics of scrum,
Yeah.
right? And the full stack coach is like, people like, I think of it as a spear. If I were to, I'm not gonna draw, but if I had a spear, that, like, you can't go coach too much on the person level without coaching the team and the organization. Because if the person's a high performer and the rest of the team, the rest of the organization shot, well, that high performer is going to leave, right?
Yeah.
If you try to coach at the enterprise level, and you're way out in front, we want to do this, and nobody else in the organization is agreeing with what the leadership wants, it is not going to go. And the same thing with the team. I did a post about blockers one time, and I believed teams will find issues and blockers, right? That they need help from the enterprise to work their way to help somewhere in the middle, the two come together to solve the problem, right? You need both. So
Right.
that's what full stack coaching is, and we can go more into details of each one and how I do that.
Awesome. So I just want to apologize to Flutes.
Yeah.
I've been pronouncing their name wrong. Um, so just to get back to that then,
Uh-huh.
because a lot of Scrum Masters, especially, I think Scrum Masters out there will feel this pain quite a lot. And that is because they may do an amazing job with their teams and then suddenly they all leave. I've had that. About 6 to 8 years ago, I remember taking teams on a journey, and I had about 60 people in total, and they all went amazing. And then they hit the limitations of the organization, and then I started losing people like crazy. They all just left. I resolved that by actually limiting the growth inside the team, but you're resolving that by hitting all three levels at once, and I quite like that approach. That's quite cool. So the idea is that if you're going to be a real coach, if you're going to be a coach, you need to make sure you have a full stack of tools to hit every level in a different way, but
Yep.
you are a well-rounded coach. Cool. Am I understanding that properly? Is that basically it?
Yeah. And you have to touch it. You have to hit each one every so often. You can't. Yeah, it's the way it is. Because if it doesn't all go, you get the team next to you. Well, Greg doesn't do it over there, so I'm not going to do it here, right? And if you don't nick that in the butt, it's just going to fall apart. Why are they doing story pointing that way, and we're doing it a different way? And
Yeah.
and
So where
why
do you
do they do
start?
reviews and we don't do reviews with a customer?
Where do you start?
Where do I start? Um, it all depends.
It does
Start with
depend, yeah.
I start with the team and more just how the teams are running.
Mm.
But I set up right away one-on-one coaching with the leads. So if like you had a Scrum team, it would be with the product owner, the Scrum master, maybe they have a BA, maybe a tech lead. So I'm working with them right away and just saying how they're doing and making sure they're comfortable. And at the same time, I offer to the team, I write a coaching agreement. Anyone on the team can come and ask me about Agile. So I
Mm.
make sure they're comfortable with that. Sometimes they're not, but it depends on the organization. But sometimes they are. And they just say, hey, I want to talk to you about Agile. I'm like, cool. Anytime you want, we'll set up an appointment. And but then at the same time, I do that. I'm also looking at from an enterprise level. What are
Mm.
all the other teams in the enterprise doing? Right. And how are they? So that when they ask me, well, so and so team's not doing it, I already know. I know what all the teams are doing when I do the enterprise coaching and where they're at. So I have an
Nice. See, I agree with you. If you were so, give you some context, Greg. We've had a
answer.
few people on the show, and some have agreed, some haven't agreed. One of my positions is this: a Scrum Master ends up doing one of three things. They hide away when the teams are mature and they run out of work to do. So they hide. They become asking for more teams. That's the preferred approach from my point of view. Or they go walkabouts to the CEO trying to understand how to help the whole organization. I find that part quite dangerous. So
Yes.
I think it's okay if you are hired in at the enterprise level to go down to the team level, but I'm a little bit apprehensive of someone who's brought in at the team level to go walkabouts to the enterprise level. What's your
Yeah.
view on that?
So what as a coach I would ask you and why is a bad word in coaching? If you do powerful questions, why would you do it? And said, you know, what's going on that you feel like you want to shut down or go to other teams? What's driving that factor that's making you interested? Um, what do you typically do as a scrum master? And one of the time
Mm.
things I find, and one of the things I found early in being a scrum master, before I took some coaching classes, what is agile coaching? Because I'm like, after about 2 months, for me, there's nothing left to teach a scrum team, right? I train my Scrum team within 30 days, and people look at me like I'm nuts. I'm like, I'm not in the daily Scrum within 30 days. And if my team after 30, you think about it, 4 weeks, that's like 20 days if you do Monday through Friday, 20 opportunities to know how to run a daily Scrum.
Yeah.
If they can't handle that, then you're doing your job wrong, right? So one of the things I
I
found,
agree.
Is that, well, there's got to be more to this. And that's where I went deep into the coaching realm. To now, when I got there, as I started trying to coach people into becoming high performers and challenging their desire to not change, right? And to be satisfied for where they're at. Now, a lot of Scrum Masters don't do that. They don't know how to do that.
Why do you think that is?
Because they don't know how, they never, all they've been taught is how to do the mechanics.
100%. Yeah. We've our industry has done it to ourselves. What we've done is we've said we can train a Scrum Master in 2 days and give you a certificate and you're good to go. And every single Scrum Master who has understood this, and I hope you don't mind, Edwin, me calling you out, and Edwin, feel free to actually write in the comments, but I remember when you first joined us, Scrum Master, I remember you did a really good job. You were pumping out information. You were trying to get information from everybody. And I was like, this guy is going to go pretty well because he didn't just take training. He's trying to really grow his knowledge, which is what I love to see in a Scrum Master. Is that right? Say again?
Ask him whose coach is.
Oh, good point. Edwin, do you have a coach? I'll let you reply. Because that's one of the things I do find a little bit strange is we let them go and suddenly they're off by themselves, and that's why they go walkabouts.
Yeah.
But they were never given KPIs as well. So I give KPIs. I'm with you. I'm a little bit stricter on my guys. So if in 3 weeks they need to understand Scrum, the mechanics. Bear in mind, I don't promote Scrum. I don't like Scrum. It's just not my thing, but everyone's to their own. But in 3 weeks, I want that. If in 90 days, I want to see not only pure benefits, but I also want to see a dependency be removed from that Scrum Master. And if Scrum Master understands where I'm coming from, they'll go from Scrum Mastering 1 to 3 teams to coaching 9 teams within, say, 9 months. And then within 9 months, they'll go further on to 14 months. They're at an enterprise level, growing their team, driving internal capabilities, etc. But that's my view, because we, in New Zealand, and especially Australia, I know as well, we infiltrate at a Scrum Master level, and then we grow that. But why I don't like a Scrum Master just going off and doing their own thing, it's because there's no collaboration. There's no understanding of the overall arching goal, which is why I like it when you create little cohorts. Questions are coming in, so I don't want to miss the questions.
Okay.
Edwin has said a little bit earlier on, before I called him out, would you say that coaching on an enterprise level is the hardest to do?
It's a different type of difficulty. Coaching individuals can be hard because a lot of times they don't want to be coached. They don't know when they want to be coached. So coaching individually, I don't need coaching. That can be the hardest thing, to be honest with you. Enterprise coaching, it's the negative people. I had someone the other day said they didn't believe it, and I'm like, oh God, okay, I got one of those negative people. What do you do? Because then you hit a lot of them. But actually, enterprise is not bad because it's easy to build a playbook and share this playbook and set up lesson learned and set up environments where people communicate together. I do first. You'd be amazed how many large companies I came in that didn't have a chat mechanism in their company, and I'm like, we're getting Slack, we're getting something, Teams. I don't care what it is, but we're setting up that communication network. And they still just discuss things by email. You'd be amazed.
Yeah, I've seen it. So I feel like I've just been played a little bit because Edwin said that you're his coach. Yeah. So,
but I love you. I love your compliment. How I explore stuff. That's why I wanted, because you were giving me a plug and you didn't know it, and I thought that was awesome.
I did not know it. Yeah, yeah. All right. Thanks, guys.
He's the one that told me about you. He's like, hey, you got to go hook up with this guy, Mike. You got to go see him. So he's the one that told me I got to connect with you.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Edwin, for setting us up. I probably
you know how I found him. So
how do you find him?
So what I give back to the community, and actually I'm going to put it out if anybody's interested, because some people have been 6 months. Edwin's been more than 6. I offer free coaching for Scrum Master.
Nice.
I'll take about 5 people in at a time, give them about 30 minutes a week. We do about 6 months worth of coaching for about a half hour a week. And if anybody's interested, feel free to message me. Anybody watching your show, if you want to coach, and we just do coaching sessions. So
love it.
It helps me to grow, because I'll be honest with you, I love hearing what's going. Like, Ed, I have a coachee in New Zealand, Edwin. I have one in Dublin. I have one in Ireland. I have one in California, Texas, Oklahoma. So it's neat hearing all these different regions of the world. So I'm benefiting just as much as helping them coach them through Agile. So it's a great win-win.
And that's one of the defining factors of mentorship as well. So people go to me, what's the difference between coaching and mentorship? And I say mentorship, you actually get something out of it, other than money. So you're almost borderline on the mentorship as well, which is really good to see. This is kind of the reason why I set this up, actually. Agility Matters, the whole point of this was I was having lots of cool conversations with cool people like yourself, and we would just chat on for hours about absolute random things. Yeah. And I was like, if somebody could just record this and actually listen in, this could be valuable to somebody else. So good on you. Love
coaching is mentoring, training, coaching. So when you're an Agile coach, you got to do all those things, and you just got to be clear when you're mentoring and how you do it versus coaching.
Which hat you're putting on at the time.
Yeah. And I think it's important that you let the person the coachee know when you're switching.
Love.
Make sure you got permission, right?
Yeah.
So like, hey, I want to tell you the story of my experience from a mentorship and see how this works. Something I've done.
Love it.
Help them explore. They may say something. I go, whoa, okay, let's explore that now, right? And then I make them dive really deep into the subject matter so they get the full breadth of what that means. Like daily Scrum is 15 minutes, but why do we have, and I start going into the whole.
Oh, I'm glad you're doing that, because that's one of my pet hates. I remember a Scrum Master once auditing me because they were an internal, and they audited my daily stand-up. And I had 13 teams at the time. And so I had to go to all the stand-ups to be audited, because that was part of the tick box, was the Scrum Master was there. Right. But anyway, that's fine. And I went to all of them, and I failed their internal test. I said, can you give me the matrix for that? And I looked at it, and it literally was like the industry standard, it must be 10 to 15 minutes. Everyone must talk. You must say what you did yesterday, what you're doing today, any blockers. So you got marked down if you didn't use the word blocker. And I said, but
really? Oh God.
Yeah, I'm not joking. It was really funny. And I said to them, but do you understand the reasoning behind a daily Scrum? That we are looking for reasons to replan at a daily level and to ensure we can maximize our value today. And they're like, no, the reason is to give a project update. I was like, wow, there we go. Found the problem.
Project update. Yeah, I love that one. I got that one the other day.
Yeah. So but you can't blame them. All right, it's correct because questions are coming in. How do we, so this flutes. I did it again, flutes, sorry. Flutes. How do you establish psychological safety with transparency? Ooh, good question.
Well, me as a coach, I actually give a written coaching agreement. So I'm very transparent. We have rules and we agree at work on it, that they know how we're going to do the coaching. So if we were talking coaching, that is one of the ways I'm very transparent. This is what it's about. Here's how much time. Here's how we're going to have this agreement. I'm not going to share anything unless you give me permission to share. Right. And I've had managers try to beat me down. What goes on your coaching session? I mean, I actually had a manager actually say that to me. I need to know. I'm like, well, no, you don't. And I'm a consultant, right? No. They could kick me out the door. I'm like, no, I don't need to tell you. I said, what I'll do is I'll ask them. It says, if they want something good wants to share, I'll ask them if they're willing to share that activity with you. But I am not going to just outright doing that. And I actually had a manager, and this is the enterprise coaching, right? Because I was coaching at this job, I was training, coaching 5 teams at a time, and then I ended up doing 15 teams in a cycle. And everyone, the scrum masters, always can come to me when they had problems. So I would coach 5, get them all going, and then I would do the next 5, and then the ones I had before, just everyone, how's it going? And from an enterprise perspective, this is the different things. I'm really good at building dashboards. I can build a dashboard and check any team I want. I can see what it's doing in about 30 seconds. I can pull up my board on my team, and sometimes I secretly do it, but I show them how to do it, right? But I have my own thing, and I can pull them up and see how all my teams are doing. And if I see something strange, they may get an email. How's it going on your team? And they're like, oh shit. What does Greg know that about my team, right? But they get that I'm not going to be a jump on them. Like, what are you doing wrong? I'm just like, hey, anything interest? What's going on? What's going on? How you're doing? Can I come to your next session? And I don't jump on them, and that's a psychological safety, right? And they see, and I teach every scrum master, every team, what I build and how I watch the teams from a metrics perspective. So it's open.
As long as they know.
I'm not coming up with some secret way of double secret probation to measure you. If you watch that,
The only thing that I measure, and I will admit this, is I have a separate section of metrics for culture that I only share with teams that hit, and I'm obviously ex-accountant, very linear thought process. When they hit a 3 out of 5, they get to know the information. And that's because if you're a 2.2 out of 5 on our metrics, then I feel on average, aggregately, you are not ready to be told you're a 2.2 out of 5. I think it actually has a negative effect on their psychology. But again, I'm not a psychologist, so I don't try to do too much of that psychoanalyzing. But I do want to know, are we an I team or a we team? Are we a group? Do we blame people? Do we not blame people? All these little things, all these little nuances I'm listening to. But that's when I move into coaching phase. So otherwise, I totally agree with you, Greg. It should be completely transparent. And if transparency will lead to psychological safety in my books. So back to Flut's question, where we have transparency alone, that will have psychological safety. I'm a big believer that if you focus on allowing people to fail, like even just those words, allowing someone to fail, making it safe to fail, celebrating failure. I love celebrating failure. One step closer to success. Those kind of things tend to lead towards psychological safety. And any tips from you on psychological safety? How to get it quickly?
Well, real quick is don't. I would get a lot of managers. We need to do this. We need to measure this. We need to do that. I would already be doing that with my teams way before I gave it to anybody else. So they were comfortable with what I'm seeing as an Agile coach from an Agile perspective, right? From a manager, from however you want to call it. And I'm going to say, well, this is the kind of things your managers are going to see. So I want to make sure that you're comfortable with what's going on before it happens, and that you understand it. You can explain it if you had to, because what people don't like is when they get caught off guard and they have no idea what something means, right? So that's part of that safety mechanism, because that's when they react. It's like, you just nailed me for something I have no idea what the hell that meant. And then they get pissed at you and they shut down, right?
Yeah. If people don't trust you, especially as a coach, then they're just going to shut down and they'll move from there. That's why I'm the biggest believer in the first 2 or 3 weeks. You are there ready to build trust and just implement whatever they want to implement very quickly. Follow-up question. Do you look for the flow of value in the organization before team consultation? Good questions coming out.
I'll put it this way.
It depends.
A lot of times I get hired to help some teams. And I kind of see where the problems are, the flow of the organization right away, and figure out we need to do this across the whole enterprise. and then I'll start building something. I mean, like I remember one group, I asked them, I said, well, do you have a playbook? Because I'm going to coach them and I want to make sure I'm coaching. Well, no. I said, you've been doing Agile for 2 years and you guys haven't figured out how you want to do Agile and reporting and all this stuff in the enterprise level.
Mm.
Well, we've been working on it. No one's grafted. I'm like, okay, fine. I did it in a month, I just interviewed and sat with the teams and figured out, okay, this is what you're doing. I'm just going to write down what you're doing. I'm not going to create anything crazy. I'm just going to make sure everybody knows what everybody's kind of doing.
Yeah.
So at the same time, here's what I do. I don't make the team change right away.
Mm.
Right. I go in and say, what are you doing? And I say, okay, well, how would Agile help that part of the flow or that process? Can it add value to it? Right. We're in meetings all day. Okay. Well, how long's your daily scrum? Well, it's an hour. Because I've had that. Daily scrum's an hour long. Like, oh crap. So I've had teams that I go in an hour long, and when I left, they were 6 minutes.
Yeah.
You know.
How big are the teams for an hour?
What's that?
How big are the teams for an hour?
They weren't that big.
Really?
Maybe, and I want to say they were a little bit on the large size.
12.
They're between
10
and 14 people.
Yeah. Yeah.
But even that.
Yeah. I always find once you get past 6, then it's like an exponential growth of time for all events because there's not actually one mission going on. There's normally 2 or 3 missions going on. Especially I remember my first few teams were all 12 people. And the stress of that as a scrum master back in the day, my stress is nothing now. I have 3-person teams. They're fantastic. I love 3-person teams.
I have tricks in Jira or any system where they're smart enough. People don't know how to use these tools right. And they just, we got this and this and that. So I would have an old team that maybe have been 6 people. I had one group. There was 4 developers and 2 testers on the team. And I said, you know what? You guys are getting so fast. I said, why don't we split the team in half? They're like, what? We got so much work. And I virtually split them in half in Jira. It was the same backlog, but the way they managed it every day, it was just the 3 of them working as a team, and they were so fast. I mean, they were just cranking out code, testing and giving feedback loops. I mean, it was like within hours, it was done. And they don't realize what I helped them do it, but I didn't mess up the larger team, right? I made this little micro team where these guys are coding and testing and communicating, and they weren't looking. Who wrote this code? They knew who it was. There was only 2. Like if you were testing something, your choice was 2 people who wrote that code. You didn't have to go look for 5 different people. Who wrote this code? It was 1 or 2.
I agree. And Jira is a real powerful tool. I mean, there's other tools out there, but I'm a big Atlassian fan. And I helped hire the Atlassian coach at a local ministry. And I love being involved in that. It was good fun. Do you look for the flow of value in organization before team consulting? We kind of deviated a little bit. But to answer that question, from my point of view, yes. I'm a big believer in leaders first. So I will look at the leadership first, the organizational design. That's my specialty. My thesis was organizational design. I look at structure, customer involvement, all before I think about future state culture that could be. Yeah. Do we even need Agile? Does it make sense? Should we go lean? What is the value mapping of the systems? I'm an agility coach. So I have a bias for this, Greg. I focus on what's right for the organization. What about you? Do you start there if you could get a choice?
If I got a choice, I would love to.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a lot of people see Agile as a new fad.
Yeah.
And they're not so much into it.
Yeah.
Some places are, some places are good. Some places, the current group I'm working with now, are very open to change and talking in an Agile sense. So it's really amazing watching their minds realize what Agile is about versus what the old waterfall project management activity was. Right. So getting the enterprise level and the value, because there's a lot of times where I sat with CIOs of the company and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna do this." And I go, "Have you seen what your workload is? And prioritize that workload and how you would do that." Well, no. And then I sat down one day with a couple of executive VPs and the CIO, and we laid out all the work they wanted to do for this project. They all looked at it and go, "Oh shit, we got to hire more people." They didn't dawn on them until we laid out that process and what was going on. And like, they had no idea. They thought they could do it with they had the staff they had. Next thing they were, "Craig, do you know anybody we can hire?" So I'm calling my buddies. "Hey, I need some testers. I need some developers. Start hiring." You know. So that is the nice thing when you actually do the agility and you do some of these methodologies and the flow, and you look at you really take a look at the workload.
Yeah.
People are just amazed, and
Mm.
and then not only the flow, but how they create teams. Like, managers like to build these teams and these orgs, and they slice it in a way that just stops flow and creates overhead.
But what and why do you think that is?
Well, you made me think about it while we were talking. When I worked for the federal government here in the States, and I worked for the Navy Department when I was in my 20s, and we used to call it uh, fiefdoms or kingdoms. Real estate. Real estate's a big thing in management. The more real estate I take up, the more I get paid, the more my prestige comes up, right? So they're like, "Let's divide this up in multiple teams so it looks like I get bigger and I'll hire more people." And this is where your business agility comes from. The old management ways, I will hold more physical location. Therefore, I will bump up in the hierarchy, my pay structure, right? So that's why they hire. "Oh, let's go hire in India. Let's go hire there. Let's go hire in Texas. Let's spread out. We just hire more people." Because in the old way, that was the way they got pay raises,
Yep. It's
right?
power.
Right. But now in this agility, you can't afford it because the other group's doing it with 5 people. How many stories you read in these books that you get? One story I just read, I don't know what book it was in. The person, I think it was when I was listening to Agile Uprising. They're talking about, they interviewed once a person that says, "Yeah, if I had to do this project over again, I would just take the 10 guys that were really good and get it done,
Yeah. I'm a
and
big
not 100
believer
people." Right?
of the old project saying. There's an old project saying that said if you were to remove 70% of the project team, you'd get it done faster. And I didn't used to believe that until I started doing larger transformations. Obviously, the studies are showing we can almost remove 30% FTE. Please don't. If you're a leader watching this, please don't.
Yeah.
But you can. You also remove 80% of leaders. So leaders, just saying, the ones who are not on board are the ones who go quickly. And I find that the most interesting aspect
How
to it.
about this? How about this as a twist? I'm teaching people how to look at team structure.
Hmm.
And in the old project management, I was a project manager, and you get
We all were.
25% allocation on project B. You're 25, you're allocated, let's say 4 projects, right? Let's say it's 5. Let's say it's 5, make even, because you got 5 days a week. So let's say you're 20% on each project. I said, well, you're only getting, so you work a week, but you're only getting 20% done on that value item that you want. So they're really only working 1 day a week for you. Right?
Correct.
On that project. So now your project does 5 times longer to get delivered to the customer, right? Because they're working all these other projects. And I was doing an analysis with one team, and they were talking about splitting this team up. And I go, well, wait a minute. Well, what's the allocation for these people? When I added it all up, they had like 10 people, but the allocation was a total of 3 people.
Yeah.
Right? So you talk about getting rid of people. No, just create 3 teams.
Yes.
Working full time on each value item, and you'll make a lot of money.
And that's the thing, though, Greg. Like, to answer a question earlier on around psychological safety, do not get rid of people. You will destroy your culture.
Yeah.
Not only do you destroy your culture, but also your customers can go against you. The Nokia study was a good example of that. I think Air New Zealand here in New Zealand is going to be a good example of that. You can't have your largest profitable years and then slash 30 to 50% of your staff just because there's a recession. I
Mhm.
guarantee your customers will not buy that. Nokia customers did not buy that, and they're not here anymore, really. And I can tell you now, your employees leave.
Yeah.
There's a
Oh,
great
you
discussion
said
going
that.
on.
You got a question? We'll do the question, but
There-
I just
there- it's quite a few questions, but actually, I want to bring you in on a conversation because obviously I can see the feedback going on. So they're all going mad at it, right? But I'll give you the high level area. So Richard is saying that he's a Scrum Master. He goes in exec level as well, which is quite cool to see. It's not normal, Richard. I will fully admit that. It's not normal, but it is normal if you show value in one area that they use it as a pilot to bring you up. What I would say, and I think, Greg, you mentioned this earlier on, is that you're not a Scrum Master anymore. You're coaching, and then you're enterprise coaching. You're full stack coaching. So I think a lot of us will actually, as long as you can, a lot of us are brought in at the Scrum Master level, and then we tend to start coaching and then enterprise coaching. Would you agree, Greg?
it depends on what your definition of coaching is. Are you coaching that senior executive to be a more high performing senior executive, which is coaching,
Yep.
right? Versus how do we scale what we're doing?
Yes, I'm a believer in, I'm more of an academic in the word coaching. So coaching can be consultational, can be educational, can be,
Okay.
so very similar to, I guess, all the other models out there. But the main thing for me is that I take the approach that makes sense to help them achieve their goals, right?
Yeah.
So that's the main thing. It's not my goal, it's their goals. And that may be that I will teach them, I will facilitate, I will ask questions like a coach, or I will support them on their journey. So I will change how I do things on that.
Yeah. And then what makes them because this is one of the things I try to do is I say, why are you asking this question to the higher level manager? Why do you need that? And try to understand their reason why they have that and help them with their psychological safety. You'd be amazed how many middle managers are terrified.
Yeah.
How many said they would come to me and say, Greg, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. What do I do now? Do I quit? Do I go someplace else? I'm like, no, don't quit. And I'm like talking them down off the top of the building. I'm like, come here.
The worst thing, Greg, is when they finally get it and then they leave. And you're like, oh, it took me 6 months to get you on the train. And then they bugger off. You're like, oh my goodness. So I want to bring you in the conversation that's going on as well. Because we've been chatting some good questions and we're running out of time. The Scrum Guide no longer has the 3 questions. Now, we spoke about it a little bit, right, around prescriptive agile versus not. But there's some good comments about when something actually is a constraint, like almost like the constraint of the solution, therefore it's always done. At what point, I'll change the question a little bit there, Richard. At what point do we remove the constraints, remove the boundaries to the process to be completely driven by that individual? Because a lot of people say to me, hey, Michael, I always throw complete 100% Scrum at them for the first 3 months, and then I allow them to change it over time.
Okay.
Not the greatest fan of that, but I get the theory behind it. So removing the idea of the 3 questions at daily stand-up, for instance, Richard pointed out, is a good point, removes the accountability of doing a proper, daily stand-up. At what point should we remove the constraints of a team?
There was lots of things in that whole question that you could go.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm filling you up.
So many different ways. A lot of those constraints I personally think they're in your brain. They're in the person's brain. Like they had a constraint that had to ask those 3 questions exactly that way because that's the way it is, and it's got to be that way. I'm like, you don't understand what the purpose of those 3 questions are. Each question, why you ask the question, right?
Yeah.
And they built this self-constraint that they created. Like that's why they took it out, because people psychologically created this constraint that wasn't supposed to be there. And like, oh shoot, people are over analyzing what the hell we wrote, right? And they're going that way. So a lot of it's their own creation.
It is, and it's funny. This is why I think we had David Snowden on a couple of weeks ago. Well, we did, but I think he said that we all say that Scrum is a framework. I think he said it was a methodology. And I kind of agree with him in the fact is that how Scrum was written down was a methodology. How it's implemented is a methodology. It is not a framework. A framework is something that can be manipulated to whatever the users require within a set of flexible constraints. Whereas Scrum never was. It was always implemented in a you must do this and this and this, which is probably one of the reasons why I don't like it. The new Scrum guide, though, I admit it's a bit more open, a bit more flexible. Maybe it's a
but
framework.
I think the only thing people are over-interpreting who can attend these ceremonies in the Scrum team. They think, oh, they kicked them out, so they can't show up anymore. I'm like, no, that's not open. That's not transparency. That's anti-transparency, right?
I protect the retros.
Yes.
That's anyone I protect.
Yeah, and that's the one that, it's what the team wants. If they want someone to attend, as a Scrum Master, I'm like, you can invite them, but the team has to say yay or nay. Be careful how you say, well, the team said no, so you can't come. You got to take the hit and say, no, I say you can't come.
Oh, yeah, I make it all my fault. Yep.
You know what I mean? It's my fault. Sorry. But no, but that's a transparency in those
which again breeds more psychological safety, which is quite interesting. The main thing I have is a day stand up. Anyone can come as long as you're not disruptive. If you're disruptive, I'll tell you to take a jog because.
Well, I won't let you come to my daily stand up until I meet with you first.
That's quite cool. Yeah, no, I normally make them quite open. Like they're very open. Everyone knows when the stand-ups are. They're on a big whiteboard normally, so people know when and where they are.
But I go offensive in the fact I go on offense and I go see who all the stakeholders are and I let them know how we're going to operate this stuff. I don't wait for them to screw up my meeting.
No, and if you listen to if you haven't listened to last week, guys, listen to last week. And obviously a plug, guys, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please subscribe. You will no longer have to worry about the meetup and you'll be able to get a ding every time we go live. There are more live events coming, by the way, as Kolar and Tim are also joining in on the live sessions. Plug over.
And don't forget, you got to hit the little bell. And
hit the little bell. Hit that bell.
I got a Philadelphia bell.
I know. My marketing people are just like, will you just please self-promote? I'm like, no, I don't want to. Is measuring a waste on a small team? Oh, God, no. Oh, sorry, Greg. Is measuring a waste on a small team?
Is measuring a waste on? No.
It's
overkilling it. Like if you totally knick-knack everything on the planet, I mean, you can pick a couple metrics that you need. Are you getting stuff done? I mean, it's just that if you're not getting stuff done, that's when you start. So why? You start measuring, you start doing the why, and a lot of people don't know root cause analysis. One of the first things in root cause analysis is you measure what's going on.
But we couldn't get BAs to do that back in the day. Now BAs are suddenly gone. It's like, who's doing that? You do that. Scrum Master, you do it.
Yeah.
Take the root cause analysis. Look, Edwin, if you ever looked at my spreadsheet, you'd be like, you measure that much? Yeah, I do. I love data. And I'm obviously writing a massive case study at the moment over 3 years on many organizations.
You have to be careful. Now, I'm going to give you on the enterprise side, okay? And under auditing, and I call them Agile accountants. On my show, 5 a.m. Mester Scrum, I do a thing where I do these little fortune cookies, right? And I open up a fortune cookie, and whatever the fortune cookie says, we apply it to Agile. I have no idea. So we just randomly apply whatever it says on here to Agile, the show topic. So anyway, I call them Agile accountants. I had an enterprise coach. It's like, we're going to make this list of all these, like you had those check marks. Got to say this, got to say that. I said, dude, do you know how much you're setting yourself for an audit and how many findings you're going to find? So be careful when you draw those big boxes, because in a controlled environment, one of those big company auditing firms are going to be like, what's your process? What's your SLDC? What is your life cycle? How do you measure this stuff? They're going to grab that spreadsheet and they're going to audit you to it. And they're going to be like, well, team B is not doing. I told them, do not write that down, what you said, because I am not getting 40 teams audited and 40 gigs because one team's not doing something on your
Yeah,
spreadsheet.
I'm not telling you guys to break the rules, but my spreadsheet is on Google Drive. It's on my personal Google Drive. You cannot access it.
Different.
You cannot get it. I have a book that I carry with me, right? And I actually rotate the book. I've become this paranoid now because the reason why, you're very right. It was about 2 years ago. The auditors grabbed my book.
Oh shit! Sorry.
I said, that's my diary. And they were like, is it your diary or is this your Agile Coaching journal? And I was like, it's my diary, honest. And I realized I'd written like months of notes and metrics and yeah, fine. It was all, you couldn't really tell who each person was, but you could work it out. And I was like, oh crikey! So now I rotate the books, just in case. Yeah. Anyway,
You have to be careful of that. When I worked with, I want to say a big giant firm in Canada, when I was teaching them how to do root cause analysis because they had a problem, they didn't know how to fix it. I'm like, really? They didn't teach you this in school? And they had books. They buy books for their people. Then you're only allowed to write in the book that they supply you. You can't have your own book.
Oh no, thank you.
Amazing. I was like, wow, I've never seen this much detail in documentation. They own every piece of IP.
No, thank you.
Literally.
Yeah, and we had that little story. I don't know if have you seen the Deloitte's train map? I'll try and bring it up before the end of the show.
The one that had a million things on it?
Yeah, like lots of like train stops, and it was like how to do agile.
Okay.
And I'll find it at the end of the show and bring it up. But long story short, that was created by someone in their own time, and Deloitte said they owned it because all IP is created is theirs. And that person's at PwC now. But yeah, I don't think it's like groundbreaking. Sorry if you're watching, but it shows how much there is in this world.
Yeah,
it's quite cool. Guys, questions. What are we drinking? Well, I'm drinking Moa, a dry hopped pilsner, and I quite like it. I must admit, I do prefer my wine. I wish I had my Shiraz, but I don't have it today. It's from Martinborough. The first New Zealand one on the show, so I'm pretty happy with that.
There you go.
And Greg, you're on the red wine from California.
Yes, I have a old vine Zinfandel called the Federalist coming out of Lodi, California. So it's got a George Washington on it and everything. I saw this. I go, I got to drink this because this is international. So I got to have this one. And this is where my wife's from in California. So we used to, when I met her when I was on a rotation out there for California. And we're gonna
have to get an American on the show who has like the big American flag behind them as well.
Oh.
Like, do you have one, Greg? I bet you have a flag
somewhere. My son does. He's running around with it the other day.
I love it. All right, I'm concerned about time. So, Mr. Bad Facilitator, Edwin's saying we should compare spreadsheets. Let's compare spreadsheets. I can show anyone live. I can't give you access to the spreadsheet because it has 3 years of data. We need to have a little thing, guys, that says question, and then I can find the questions inside. What would be the go-to place to dig deep into enterprise coaching? Oh, good question, Danusha. Oh, it's woken up. What do you reckon, Greg? Where would you go if somebody? I think Tanisha, if I remember correctly, mate, you're about 2 or 3 years into your coaching, I believe. If I remember correctly, or wrong person. I'm pretty sure that's you. So someone 2-3 years who wants to get into enterprise coaching, Greg, where should they go? Obviously to yourself, and you can find you on hashtag 5am Mester Scrum.
So what I mean, a lot of times it turns out you just volunteer to help do something, and then later on you become an enterprise coach, and they're asking you to do stuff across the enterprise. If you're from the coaching perspective, a lot of times I've become enterprise coach because my teams are so damn good They get really good. The other managers,
Yeah.
can you help my teams do that too? So that ended up being an enterprise coach and how we apply it across the whole organization. So it depends on the journey and where the organization is.
Got to be a little bit careful though, haven't you, though? Because let's say you're an amazing Scrum Master who has some good coaching experience. So you can do, let's say, 13 teams and you start scaling what you're doing. But at enterprise coach level, I would say there is more organizational design involved. So you need to understand strategy, you need to understand organizational design, you need to understand how people work at a cultural level. Of course, I'll do a little plug here. So surge.coach/BAR, the business agility radar, is your first stop tool that's completely free to measure your business agility in your organization. Completely free to use, free to interpret. We use it for academic purposes. And obviously, we do a business agility course that is $100 US. So you feel free to purchase that course. And if you pass the test with 85% plus on your first go, I will refund you because my test is that hard. Okay. Greg, I'm going to get a bunch of you guys to do the test, right? Because I had 3 of my guys do it and they all failed. And I thought it was brilliant.
I like every once in a while, I take some of those tests as raw, no study, no nothing. I'm just curious, like I'm going to take it right now. No prep, no nothing. Boom. See how well I do. And
yeah. That's what happened to 2 of my guys. They basically went in and just went, right, I'm going to do the test. It should be fine. I did Michael's course like 6 months ago, but Michael's course is always iterating. So I use a lot of connections between the Connecting model and Frederick Laloux's organizational revisit organizations. Yeah. And then I take up a whole bunch of high performance stuff on top of that. So yeah, I love transformation. And I would say enterprise coaching, if you want to go for a resource, obviously business agility institution as well.
The one thing I see in the business agility models, though, is they get into the agile accountant mentality and they start going to the DevOps, the CI/CD. They do metrics, they do stuff that's not cultural. So I do appreciate when you're saying being more cultural oriented in the business agility more than when I see all those things, like half the stuff is pipeline related. If you do the business agility radar that's out there, it's all pipeline, throughput, all that has nothing to do with culture.
No, 100%. And so we focus on 4 values and they're all around creating people-centric cultures. That's one of our key functions. Now that may be agile delivery, it may be lean, it could even be commoditizing your product. If that's your strategy to commoditize your product, then commoditize your product. You require no innovation. Agile delivery for me is purely if you require innovation and it's the complex environment. If your competitiveness is not going in that direction or you don't want to go in that direction, then agile delivery is not for you. Save your money on Scrum Masters because they're going to try and create innovation.
Yeah. And I want to add just one other thing. When you do the enterprise coaching, you need to broaden your perspective on what's out there, right?
Yeah.
You can't just say, I'm just a Scrum Master and I'm going to be an enterprise coach. Scrum is one piece of the puzzle. You got to know Kanban. You got to know OKRs. You got to know less. You got to know Scrum at scale. You got to know SAFe. You got to know all these scaling, maybe DAD. You got to know all these different things and all these mechanisms that go into the culture. Like
the DA resource is actually a really good one, actually.
Look, John Cotter, Sense of Urgency.
Mr. Cotter, yeah.
He writes they all reference this guy. So if you haven't read any of his books, don't be an enterprise coach yet.
That's a really good point. Go on then, Greg. What's your 2? No, let's go 3. What are your 3 most favorite books for somebody who's in a Scrum Master coach role and wants to take the next step?
If you want to go to enterprising, I like the latest books. There was a book out there that someone said about fixing your Scrum. Because I like the fact that it challenges the person. Before you go up there, go read that book and see if you're doing anything in that book that you shouldn't be doing.
That's a
and
great point.
Then go to talk to enterprise and then hit that next space, right? And then I like the Cotter books and
even the 8 steps of Cotter's change management is a great stepping stone. Like, if you don't understand creating a sense of urgency, then how are you ever going to change culture? So, totally.
I mean, you could do the 5 disciplines. You could. There's a lot of books out there that talk about organizational culture and
Yeah.
how to do that. But you know what I like to do sometimes? Like I listen to Gary Vee, the big marketing guy.
I was literally getting ready to say mine, right? I'm with you, right? I don't think, forget the Agile books. There's a couple of really good ones out there. I'm reading at the moment Better, Safer, Happier by Jonathan Smart, a UK guy in banking. That's actually pretty onto it, I must admit. But most of them, yeah, listen to Gary Vee. Totally agree. Listen to the actual business coaches who are looking to restructure organizations around value.
Right.
Like,
And that are and if you listen, if you're an agile person, you listen to him, he's very he doesn't know it. I love these people that talk agile that don't know it. Oh,
Yeah.
one of my other favorite books is The Sprint. Like if you're in culture, business agility, and you
Yeah.
haven't read the book The Sprint by Knapp, and go read that book because it tells you in 1 week, and this is how Slack got created. It's one of they use his book. 5 days, they figure out whether or not something they want to invest money in. It ain't
like
5 months, it's 5 days. They draft something up, put it out there, get in front of the customer, get feedback loop, and they see is it worth to put the next 10 teams on it to build it into a product line.
And Rich is on the call as well, and we worked together in a quite large bank, and that was actually one of, I think, Richard, you were a project manager back then, I believe, and I was your lonely BA. And I remember that exact question. I said, oh, well, instead of getting these requirements ready, why don't I just do a quick analysis to see if actually this is worth even doing? And they were like, all right, sweet. You got some financial experience, Michael, do it. Cool. So out of every 10 projects I was given, only 2 were good enough to have a hypothesis-driven sprint. 20% of projects, which means we would have spent millions of dollars for no apparent reason. So
Well, it's funny. I'm doing that at the enterprise level right now. I'm getting them there. They're not there yet. They don't know unless they watch this at 2:00 in the morning and come back and watch what I'm doing. But I'm getting them to the point where they start looking at. They have all these initiatives they want to do. I'm like, okay, which one's bringing value now? Right, that's your priority one. Sorry.
And it's funny. And I'm wary of your time because it's 3 a.m. for you.
That's fine. I'm drinking.
You're drinking? All right. So, guys, we're going to continue on for as long as our drinks last because Edwin's already said, please stay on for round 2. Well, we'll just carry on, Edwin, until either Greg falls asleep or I have too much to drink and say the wrong thing. So, what is the highlight from tonight and what are you taking with you and implement? Is that for me, Edwin? Or is that for everybody else? I normally do my highlights at the end, Edwin.
Oh.
But I'll do them in advance. I quite like your approach to having coaches that understand a full stack. I actually think that's a really good point. It solves a problem that I've had that I resolve in a different way. So this is another tool for my toolkit. And I think also what I like about that idea is that's where we're going as a company, Social Coach. We are kind of having people that can do all the roles. And the reason why that is because I don't want just Scrum Masters working for us and, working with us, sorry. Wow, that's bad, Michael. Terrible. Working with us. We're a whānau, we're a family. And Scrum Masters, coaches, enterprise coaches, we're all the same, but we can do the roles. We just earn less in certain roles. Because we have a hierarchy pay scheme here.
Yeah. And if you can make more money, good for you. That's
but
that's why I want to go back and be a Scrum Master and just have my team and just get I'm gonna give 2 things I want to share about being a full stack coach.
Love it. Go for it.
One, the disadvantage about being an enterprise coach is you don't get that camaraderie of a team where you're in there every day, you're hanging out, you're having a great time. So that's a disadvantage that if you like that, you're not getting that anymore at the enterprise level. Going away.
Nothing.
The other one is I had another enterprise coach level or agile coach. He told me one day, I love people to do this. We're in a big room, thousands of people. We're doing safe PI planning. It's just ginormous. And I'm like, we're talking. He's like, well, Greg, I coach 36 teams. I'm like, dude, you're freaking lying to me. There's no way on God's green earth you can coach 36 teams, right?
You could support 36 teams.
No, you can enterprise coach 36 teams.
I see where you're going.
Different.
Yep.
And they go in and say, well, I got 30. Well, do you have other coaches to help coach those teams? Well, no. Well, then, damn it, you're screwing up all these teams because they have no support structure to get real coaching.
Yeah.
Right? So even when I say I'm an enterprise coach, I am. And the one last group I had, we had 40 teams. So I'm coaching enterprises of 40 teams. I had 2 trains. Each train had 4 teams on it. So that's 8 teams. To be honest, I was heavily coaching only 4 teams out of the 8. So you have to be realistic in what you can and cannot do, and don't lie to yourself nor your organization. That makes sense?
It does, yep.
Okay. So that's one thing I just want to make sure everybody understands that. Don't be telling me you're an enterprise coach or you're coaching like more than 4 teams or 5 teams at a time, because I'll call you out on it. Because I've been doing this long enough, so no, you're not.
Yes, well, go on, Greg. I'll give you my numbers, right? So I interviewed somebody's book on here, Niall Shane's book on Agile Coaching. And he said something really cool. That was, you need 5 years to be an Agile coach. And, I'm never the biggest fan of set numbers, but what I define as an Agile coach is when you actually start coaching and you have some coaching frameworks. That's always handy. But I'm a big fan of when you go from 1 to 3 teams to around 3 to 12 teams as a coach. Probably for a junior coach or someone with, say, less than 5 years experience, probably somewhere around 5 to 7 teams. That's a good number, I find. But I totally agree with you. Once you go past a dozen teams, you're not coaching anymore. You're just there as a consultant. You're the enterprise coach. You're maybe coaching the leadership, but you're working on structure, strategy, culture development. You're working with the chief people officer normally. You lose all that fun. Scrum Master is fun. Like you go for beers. I'm never invited for beers on an enterprise coach role. Everyone hates me. Everyone thinks I'm going to sack them all. It's like, no, I'm not doing any of that. I want to redistribute the value. And they're like, oh no, we know what PwC does. It's like, well, I'm not PwC, am I? But Scrum Masters get invited for pizza and beers, and it's fun. Coaches, it's mostly fun. Enterprise coaches, it's a serious job where literally you get some really good value. You have to want the outcomes of it. You have to love the outcomes of enterprise coaching.
Yeah, pre-COVID, I used to do it all the time. We used to go, when I was a Scrum Master and I had a team, we'd go to different restaurants in Philadelphia and have different desserts. And a lot of the guys I was working with from India, so they had no idea about these other flavors, other desserts, and we're just going to restaurants. They're like, Greg, we're doing retrospective. Where are we going next? What restaurant? What are you going to take us? And they just loved it. I loved it when they would ask me. But when pre-COVID, as an enterprise coach, where I coached like the 15 teams, I actually had a lunch, and I treated all my Scrum Masters to lunch, and we would go to a local restaurant, a nice one, and have lunch, all 15 of us, and just shoot it. And then I would do one separately for my product owners.
Yep.
People like, oh, I was spending money. I said, it cost me $150, a couple $100, but it's worth it. I didn't get reimbursed from my company. It was just me. I'm just like, we're going out. Because people were, I don't care. I'm paying for it. I don't give what the company was saying, but I would take them out. You can't always do it. You can't afford it. But sometimes every once in a while, maybe every 3 months, we would just go out and we're all going out. And, I'm treating, don't buy all the liquor. Don't buy any wine because it's too expensive. You want a soda or water or whatever. If you're buying beers, you buy your own beers. Liquor tab is another story.
Don't take the Mikey. I agree.
Yeah.
It's funny. I did a fun thing like that only recently. I was introduced to the term burn down across a PI, so in the Scale Agile framework. And I noticed they weren't really caring about it, and I get why they didn't care about it. It's really for me, but I wanted them to care so that they'd understand why flatlining on a burn down across sprints was a bad thing. Anyway, I said I created an algorithm for the points of how close they were to the appropriate line. So they couldn't just complete all their work and get the points fast. They had to be within a percentage of the medium line. And top winner got, lunch. And that just drove way more cultural development than ever giving them a pay rise. Like, I can't give pay rises, but I can guarantee you that gave them more fun than actually a pay rise would ever would. So I urge leaders who are watching this now, dip into your pocket, pay $100, and you will get more out of your teams than you ever could for like $1,000 pay rise.
Yeah, I used to
Companies don't want
to. We get the Facilitator cheap pretzels. I go buy a whole case of pretzels, and they're like, "Wow, this is awesome."
Yeah, the program manager at one of my clients, he bought M&Ms. I didn't like this approach, but I thought it was quite funny. Every story point you completed, you put an M&M in your jar. I said all you're doing is making them up the points now. But it was funny. It was humorous, and he phased it out quickly enough anyway. But it was quite funny.
It's something different, a different way of looking at things, because it gets boring after a while, right? Let's just change it up. And that's very agile thinking, right? I'm not here to do it forever, and that's where you got to watch those agile accountants. Oh, we're gonna do this now. We're just no. I'm just experimenting. We're just having a little fun here.
We're just having fun, and we're gonna measure the results. If it worked, we might do it again. If not, as Edwin just said, it's all about value. It is all about value, but measure value, Edwin. Even if you've got a 3-person team, measure the value they're creating. Create your own KPIs. I obviously have mine. I said this before. What my KPIs are: customer value is made up of brand loyalty, price, brand loyalty, customer satisfaction, and functional value. Right. So if you use those 12 KPIs in the search website, then you'll basically have some form of starting point. But yeah, it's all about value. Hey, what's this about a funny technical debt story?
Put you back to add one. Gary Vee said it's about don't forget about it's the employees first.
It is.
They're going to help motivate all that other stuff, right?
Totally.
The happiness factor of your employees you're gonna blow out your velocities and all your metrics. When they're happy, they're just gonna go through the roof, right?
Here's a funny stat for you, Greg. So as part of my research, I found that almost everything increased customer value within the agile world, but also a whole bunch of stuff that we didn't know about. So that was really cool, right? But the least correlated fact was if a company made more money, employees were happier. They weren't. They didn't care. But if the customer was happier, employees are happier. If the employee's happier, the customer's happier. They're all fully correlated. The only one that didn't matter was how much money a company made, because no one cares how much money a company makes. They only care what the mission statement of the organization is. So I agree with you. Treat your employees well, and they will reward you in tenfold.
Yep.
What's this funny technical debt story?
Technical debt story. Funny technical.
Edwin's brought it up twice. He said, "Hey, Greg, tell us that funny technical debt story."
I have to think about what's technical debt story.
See, this is the problem with coaching, Edwin. We make up stories on the fly that have elements of truth, but they're not always exactly true. Like we can't piece things together. No, it probably is a real story. I do that. I'll piece 2 or 3 stories together to create a learning activity.
Well, he says it's funny, and I want to. What technical that story did I say that was funny? I don't know. Are they trying to be funny? I don't know. Maybe
it could be Kiwi humor.
Maybe you can add a little point of which story I was telling.
Go on, Edwin, if you're still online, let us know what story that was, because we don't know. So, what's your view on SAFe then?
On SAFe?
It comes up a lot.
I had a debate with I purposely got my SPC. I just got it the other day, and finished that because I've been doing SAFe for 4 years and on and off, and never had my SPC. So I said, "Yeah, I'm in between jobs. I'm gonna get my SPC." Talking to what do you want to call it? Not a trustee, but one of the high level people in SAFe, right? They're very adamant you have to do SAFe exactly that way. it is what it is, what we learned, and you got to do it that way. And that's one thing about SAFe.
Really?
Yeah, they're very adamant on doing it their way, because their data shows that their way of operating is the right way. So
Oh,
they have a lot of that going. And then, because it's the same methodology, when you teach the class, if you become an SPC and you can teach the class, you have to teach their deck.
oh yeah, yeah.
No
I've got it
deviation.
here.
Yeah, there's no deviation from that deck, right? So it's very, you got
It's
to do it
okay.
this way. However, one of the things I didn't realize when I took the SPC is how much corporate or much knowledge is in their documentation.
Mm.
And one of the things when I really explored the SPC, which is a higher level task and this takes a lot of knowledge, there's a lot of material in it. They have everything from enterprise coaching to team coaching to business agility. They have books on this stuff that you can dive into as a coach or a person at the enterprise level that you didn't have. So it's a wealth of knowledge of things that worked and corporate experience. That's great, right? There's some things that I would love to, since I've done so many systems, I like SAFe. I would like to take SAFe and marry it with Scrum at scale and how they do things, because I always
Interesting.
worry
Okay.
about a high level hierarchy. Go ahead.
I like. No, I'm sorry. I'm connecting the dots now with what you're saying. That's. I don't disagree. I'm a little bit saddened though that the higher uppers of SAFe say that, because just to let you know, Dean, everyone in New Zealand and Australia teaches SAFe as a stepping stone toward Agile. We all talk about it in terms of we start with that and we evolve out of SAFe, and that gives you your biggest bang for buck. So as I've always said to the people on the show, SAFe is a gateway drug towards Agile. But
SAFe can be, if you take the last course, like I said, I've done them all, and I purposely, because I want to know what they're coming from. I want to know why you're saying what you're saying, and go, no, that's, you really know why you just said what you said, and sometimes the other methodologies or frameworks explain why they just said it, because they didn't know. And that's why you want to do them all, right?
And SAFe works in certain situations. So if you think about Frederick Laloux's color scheme, right, in an amber organization, I absolutely agree. SAFe is fantastic in an amber organization, command and control processes, efficiency-driven organization that wants to move to business outcomes. Totally agree. SAFe, go SAFe, love it. Same as Less. I have no problem with Less in the same way. Same as Spotify model. Even though Henrik himself said, do not copy the Spotify model. Yeah. But it's good as long as you evolve it. I'm very upset thinking that, and this is why I've actually asked Dean to come on the show. He's kind of ignoring me at the moment. So if you ever see him, prod him. He's a little bit higher up, yeah. But I want somebody to tell me I'm wrong academically, because I don't want to be just told I'm wrong.
Well, I can tell you. I'll tell you wrong.
Go for it.
Let's just take the PI planning event.
Yes.
I think it's a beautiful thing.
I agree.
People don't like, oh my God, we got to, what they screw up is the damn PowerPoint pitches.
Yeah.
That's irrelevant.
I don't do that.
You should be able to quickly say what your capacity is, and that shouldn't take more than an hour, right? And do all that stuff. That's done. But where you get in the meat is where you get the topics that you want to build and have those discussions.
Correct. And
when I go to these SAFe conferences, and when I first got there, I just walked around. My boss had no idea what I was doing, but I was watching the managers. I was watching people, how much walking around the room they did.
Yeah.
And where the manager, I'm just here for this meeting. No, you're not there for that. You're there to go integrate and talk to and see how the teams are doing and see if they need your help.
Love it. There was a
that's
CEO.
Where they lose that. They don't get taught that.
No. And this is the thing. I think that where SAFe is failing in Australasia is, and maybe this is because SAFe teaches this, I'm not entirely sure. I've done the SPC course, but I'm not an SPC. I refuse to pay the 6K. But someone gave me the course. But one of the CEOs I was there, she was brilliant. She said, remember everyone, we're here for outcomes. I don't care if the work is in a different department. Go and sit with them and be with their team for the next 90 days. And I was like, that's freaking amazing. She's literally just saying to teams to go around and do what they want. The middle managers didn't allow it, but that, hey, it's a start, right? No, I'm fully a believer in PI planning. I call my version 90-day strategy, because you're creating a strategy on how to win in 90 days at the team's level. It doesn't require 2 days. I do it normally 4 to 6 hours.
It depends where you are. If you have no idea going into a room and you have no idea what your backlog is, yeah, it's going to take 2 days. Because you're going to create first day, you're going to create it. And then you're going to, we have all these dependencies. We got to go talk to these other people. It's going to take 2 days, right?
I would say if you have spaghetti style dependencies, and I've been there in SAFe when we've implemented it. And what I love about that is I say to people, hey, see the spaghetti junction? That's not good.
Right.
Can we resolve that through structure change?
Right.
So I use that as a conversation point, but what I've been told is that's quite normal in SAFe because they don't talk about structure change. They talk about implementing PI planning, value streams, portfolios, lean governance, all these fantastic things, but they don't think about adapting for the customer value and reduction in maintenance debt, which is something that it bugs me. But then should SAFe be a be-all and end-all for everything? No, it suits a certain type of organization and a certain point in their development.
But if you look at the SPC 5, they went back to say, you know what? We got away from the Agile manifesto. The way they're teaching it now is they're saying, we realize that we got away from the Agile part and they're going back to it and they're pushing. So when you do that PI and you have that spaghetti thing, you go, hey, this needs to be changed. And it brings, we talked about visuals and visibility, right?
Yeah.
To what we're doing. And that just brings visibility. Oh my God, I got this line. That's effed up.
Yep.
Maybe you've never done that as an organization, because if you did that for the first time and you have all those lines, it tells me you've never done it before. Right?
Yeah, I totally agree.
So it exposes that. I call Agile, and I had a conversation the other day. Agile doesn't fix things. It just tells you what you're not doing right.
Yeah.
It exposes those issues and brings them to the top. So you have to be ready for that. Because I said Agile is going to bring it real quick. I said, you're going to think you were doing so great when the waterfall, because you had all this time and you covered over stuff. Like I filled the bathtub with water, right? And the spikes.
There's that humorous diagram of SAFe where it's like, where's the customer? There they are. They're just at the back of the process. And now they're more integrated. So I'll give them that. I said I'd show you this, by the way.
But also remember, in those big corporate organizations, how often they get to go near the customer.
Yeah, well, that's what Simon Sinek says quite well.
Bank of those giant financial institutions. Come on. They don't let those developers anywhere near the customer.
No. And that's what I love what Simon Sinek says. He says,
God, I remember this one. Yeah.
Oh, you seen that? Yeah.
I wanted to shoot myself.
I kind of like it.
Oh, God.
It kind of shows you how complex all these things are and where they kind of sit on things. But yeah, it is kind of like when you use that to implement your strategy, you're going the wrong direction. But
if you were to do that, but and they talk about SAFe, the new portfolio layers above it and everything. When I would go years ago, when I first started doing this stuff, and I'm looking at a large corporation, I don't know if I can name names, but it was a large business to business thing, and they had lots. And I saw their features. Said, your features are 2 years old. Who the hell is going to implement this stuff?
That's
right?
Brilliant.
I'm like, get rid of it. And then I see all these features and epics that were there, and I go, you're at 80%, 90% done. Let's finish them, get the revenue in the company, and then we'll go hit the other ones. And they just look at me like, what? So that whole top section is what I was trying to explain to them from an enterprise perspective
Yeah.
and a business value perspective.
Yeah.
That SAFE put it there, but they haven't. What do you do with it? Right?
Yeah. It's funny, right? And I got a question in my head. We can't answer this now, but I think what we should do, Greg, is you and me should like call in to each other's meetings and our other clients, right? Because I reckon there's some small differences between countries, right? I find fascinating, and it'd be good to have a third person look at another client in a different country. Because there was a comment that was made by Lisa Atkins, and it depends on where you sit on her abilities or not, but she's quite popular over here, mostly because she said this, that New Zealand is quite advanced on their agile journey. And I think what it is, we've leapfrogged in some areas. So a lot of coaches who are probably watching this are going, no, my God, we're not. We're so behind.
I was waiting for the feedback on that one. Call that one. Yeah, bullshit.
Yeah, but when you think about it, so I've just finished off in a ministry, which is like, your federal government style, right? We have 3 to 5 person teams. They choose their processes. They plan 90 days because they want to. They feel great. They got great results. Everything's happy. And I've made myself like gone. I'm leaving next week on this client. They don't require anybody major else. And then I listened to the UK guys. And there's one guy who just blocked me on LinkedIn. Hello, Scotland, by the way. You blocked me on LinkedIn. He was so adamant that projects are so wrong inherently. And I asked him, well, what is inherently wrong with a project? Because my project could be simply to move this book from one end to the other end. That's a project. But they're so fixated on Scrum and this prescriptive. I shouldn't say they as in everyone. Sorry for anyone who's UK watching, because not all of you are like that. But I'm tending to find the most vocal people on LinkedIn from the UK are very prescriptive in their agile. You must do it this way, Scrum. There's one guy, and I have full respect for Tobias. Yeah. Tobias is really well known, but he reminded me of everything that is good is Scrum. Everything that is bad is not Scrum. Now, he didn't say that. I'm not quoting him, but that's how I'm paraphrasing. And I had to stop talking to him because it sort of like made me go, well, anything I say that's good, you'll say that's Scrum. Because you're manipulating it to make it Scrum. But yeah, UK's gone that way. So I'd love to know what USA's like. I don't have enough knowledge of USA. So it'd be good to have a USA. And then we should get another chat, say in 3 to 4 months' time, on what we've reflected on each other's coaching abilities. Coaching how you have to coach in your cultural environment. That could be quite cool.
Well, it's funny you say that. Back when Agile was coming out in 2000, I was in just shortly thereafter, 2006. I'm working in Silicon Valley, and I have software engineers and I was a program manager. I had $40 million worth of business underneath me. And what I was talking to one of my software engineers went over to work for Apple, and I was looking to transfer back into data and tech. So I'm looking at this Agile stuff and Scrum and learning about it. And I ask him, are you doing Agile? And he's like, what the heck is Agile? Right. So I'm in Silicon Valley, the heart of software mecca.
Yeah.
And most of the people, the big companies, didn't know what Agile was. Right.
Doesn't surprise me.
And, and even today, you'd be amazed how many companies, as I go from company to company, which part of me likes switching company. My wife doesn't like it, but I like switching companies. How they don't know what Agile is. They have never done it before. But I also say they don't know what project management is either, because I'm a PMP. True. So I got all the worlds, and I know what works and what doesn't work. And
it's different toolkits, right? Like,
oh yeah, everything's good, and it's all valuable. It's all useful. I could sit there and show you one day. I always say one day I'm going to take all the different methodologies, all different thoughts. I'm going to lay them out on the screen. I'm going to show you how they're all the same in some aspects of it.
Oh, I don't agree with that.
And what their verbiage is, or the language, and how much detail they go, and what they emphasize. But they all cover the same topics. It's lessons learned over 100 years of good practices.
And the science has been pretty darn clear since even Karl Marx himself. Yeah. Like, the behavioral science is pretty set. We know what motivates people. We know what the difference is, Greg, is I think only recently our strategies have actually been innovation. Beforehand, they've always been efficiency, getting things cheaper, making the products cheaper. So why would you ever want Agile for that? You wouldn't. There's no point. But then companies are starting to realize, actually, I can make this product cheaper, but actually China can make it even cheaper than me much quicker than I can. So I need to innovate. I need to value add. And that's where we've done bad in this country. We're very commodity driven now. Our value add products are decreasing in competitive advantage. And, we have some really good companies, but, I'm a strategy guy. I look at scenario analysis. I love it. And I look at New Zealand, and yes, we've implemented Agile everywhere, but we've implemented Agile in ministries and in companies that require no innovation. We need to have these companies pivot their entire strategies towards innovative value add products. By the way, I found out what that question was. Edwin has said that story that the team was working on a product for months that was a loss and never released. Hope it's clear, hard to explain.
Okay. Working on a project for months, but never. Yeah. So
It doesn't sound funny, Edwin. It sounds very, very
it sounds
upsetting.
very serious. It's like a funny story. But yeah, I mean, I've seen that. I have had lots of places that just work on stuff and it just doesn't go out. And I don't know about that
Yeah.
story from what my backlog is, but
It's very common, Edwin, as well. You end up with these 3-year programs where nothing's delivered. I remember one ministry spending $4 million on, it was just after, so I don't know about USA, Greg, but we implemented same-sex marriages 7 years ago, guys, 8 years ago, something like that. And we had civil unions beforehand, so it wasn't a big jump for us.
yeah.
And my project was to find a solution for polygamy.
Oh God.
Because that was coming, right? It never came. Obviously not, because I found that there was only 2,000 polygamists in the whole of New Zealand. So keep a spreadsheet. It's not difficult. But they implemented a $4 million program of work that never delivered a single thing because it's too hard. But it kept all the project managers employed for 1.5 years.
No, there's something I built. I had one program with that $40 million. In a year, we built. I was building tanks at the time, and I built 3 tanks, 2 brand new computer system, new software system, new internet, new database, new interface, new everything in a year. And the other company did a spec. Guess who got the billions of dollars of revenue for their company?
I wonder who.
Oh, just you show that's my story. This is the Agile thing because it wasn't 2-week increments, but I set it up and I ran the money right every month. I'm like, I want to see product every month, and guess what I did? I got the colonels and the officers in the army to touch and feel the product.
Nice.
They saw it becoming what it was, and when it was ready, and the government was ready to revamp their entire National Guard, right?
Nice.
You had a product that can slide into the retrofit.
Brilliant.
They just had paper. Mike and I, people don't see what I did because I was just doing it, but it kept the whole factory employed for another 2 years.
Brilliant.
Because now they're taking all those computers and all those things we built and installing them, because otherwise there wouldn't have been a need for it, right?
Yeah.
So it was one of those things that, you're talking about business agility, showing product, get it in front of the customer, liking it, and then taking it and just massifying it. And then that goes to where you said that the cheaper way of doing it. Okay, let's put it in a factory now. What do we got to do? Let's make thousands of them, tens of thousands of them, right?
And that's what I love about business agility. And the fact is that you want to understand the value chain, right? And where it's strategically going. Innovate. Use Agile to innovate. Totally agree. Greenfield thinking, bespoke products, amazing. Great. Move it into lean to value add the product. and then drive it down to Six Sigma to basically efficient the product, and then sell that part of the business off to a major manufacturer. Start again. That's a very profitable cycle right there. We've both been in defense. Defense over here, though, you probably had the same thing. The brigade would walk into a room, and whenever I asked a question, they'd all go, "We agree." It was I had to ban a brigade from meetings because and he wasn't actually that bad. It just so happened that everyone was very hang on, was it that one? Yeah, that one. Following orders. I thought was funny.
Yeah. Join the military.
Any other questions online, guys? Because I'm wary of Greg's time. I'm wary of even my time because I'm an early bed person. There's no more questions though. Greg, reflect with me.
Yeah.
What did you how did you experience the session? Do you have any aha moments? Did you have any recalls? Did you have any that's different.
Well, I like your take on the people side of the metrics and what you're doing from an enterprise coaching, right? From the session, I like the interaction. I like the questions. I like having the banter on different topics, and you can go different ways. The wine was good, though I drank my glass. So.
And that's why I'm ending it, guys, because I'm out of alcohol.
Yeah.
And I have a long way. My studio is quite far away from my house, so I got quite far away to go to the beer fridge.
Yeah. But when you say this is why going out, which was nice pre-COVID, but we probably shouldn't say that because we'll get flagged. But it was going out and relaxing, going to lunch and talk. Like, you want metrics. I was more like, so I see the hesitant. What's going on? And just have a conversation. You get so much more value out of that conversation is let's analyze everything to it.
Informal conversations are beautiful.
Yeah.
I used to love having my retros at the pub. Not because I'm an alcoholic, because that sounds really bad now to talk about alcohol the whole time, but because it's a relaxing area where they talk frank. And they don't feel that it's work. Retro is group reflection, right? So to reflect, you must be uninhibited by fear.
Yeah.
So if you have any inhibitions, you can't have that. So I recommend go to the pub, go to the lake, go for a walk.
Yeah.
Have fun.
I did coaching sessions walking around the complex at one of my facilities. Myself and this one lady I was coaching, we would just go for walks and just walk around the lake and just talk about it, what her issues were, and just go through that. So that was fun.
Edward's asked, "Hey, Greg and Mike, are you guys have any courses or certificates to recommend?" Obviously, the Business Agility Foundations from Surge.coach. But Greg, anything for you?
If I'm a Scrum Master, one of the things I looked for when I was a Scrum Master going to be a coach, I was looking for that class. I don't think I like the IC Agile stuff. I like the facilitation class.
We're both IC Agile facilitators as well. Yeah.
And I like the coaching class just because it's totally different than anything you get in any of those other programs. They don't cover it. They don't cover real coaching. They don't cover facilitation. And those are really things that, as a Scrum Master, were very valuable. Though I've been a facilitator for 20 years before I became a Scrum Master. I was trained, but a lot of it was refresh reminders. Oh yeah, I remember that 20 years ago. It's the same stuff. But those two courses, if you can do it, will broaden your horizon on what it is to be a Scrum Master.
I would add to that. Obviously, I'm an IC Agile trainer myself. Our Business Agility course, by the way, we do online is actually the same Business Agility course we do for IC Agile.
Okay.
But without certification. Because I am requesting to be able to do asynchronous training under IC Agile. I understand there's no collaboration, but the foundation levels, when it's not competency based, I still reckon we can get away with that. Anyway, but I recommend Edwin getting somebody to recommend a person, because every IC Agile course is different. Some just
Yeah.
barely meet the grade. Some go so much further. And I'm a big believer in some of the courses out there. I got asked today by one of our guys, should I go and do the Agile Coach or the ICF? And I actually recommend the ICF.
Yeah, ICF, that's a big one though.
It's a big one.
That's you got to be committed.
Yeah, that's competency based.
Here's
That's 3 years.
Here's my real recommendation. I would take and this is what I was going through my mind. I took the ACC course to find out, to taste what coaching was about.
Yeah.
Before I took that giant leap and invested 6 months, a year, $30,000 of my time into doing the ICF stuff.
Yeah, it's a
Does
degree.
that make sense?
Yeah. It's basically a degree.
It is. It's a master's.
Yeah, I actually haven't done it. I looked at doing it like 2 years ago and was like, that's cool, I'm going to do that. But I ended up doing a master's of business administration instead. And now, I'm not saying I don't need it, because that's really arrogant to say. But it's probably not the direction I'm going. Like I do like the strategy and the organizational design element. There is coaching involved in that, but I'm not going to be a coach where I'm not going to be the person who has one-on-one coaching. So ICF, definitely, if you could do executive coaching, personally, that's my personal recommendation. The IC Agile coaching course, the syllabus is amazing. I freaking love the syllabus. I would say to you, get Greg to recommend someone's course.
Yeah. There's a couple of people, and the beauties about the IC Agile versus like the SAFe and the Scrum a lot and those things, they're all prescriptive, right? Is that each teacher teaches it different.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
And like I purposely took a different one for my facilitation course and a different one for my ACC.
Nice.
And one of them I became good friends when I actually ended up teaching with them later on. And that's the other thing. If you want to get in teaching someday, you want to go work with some different people, because they may have an opening to bring you on board. If you're stuck with just one, it reduces your possibility of opportunity to teach. That makes sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And I guess that's how I got into it as well. I was trained to be a trainer at a company, and I thought, this is cool. And I just downloaded the syllabus and the outcomes of IC Agile. I was like, I fully support IC Agile. I do. I think they're going in the right direction. And when they introduced the business agility area, that's where I focused. I have got an Agile Coach course, but I don't offer it. Here's my reasoning, Edwin. I feel like, and actually, Jakob, who was on a few weeks ago, he's got an Agile coaching course that I haven't been on, so I can't recommend it fully, Jakob. But the outcomes of his course and how he does his course, I actually really recommend, because I don't believe in a 2-day course anymore. I believe that if you want to learn coaching properly, it has to be over a significant period of time, like what Edwin's doing with you, Greg. It has to be over a period of time so you can reflect constantly on scenarios that come up. And yeah, I've always stated that if you want to be a Scrum Master trained by me, then come work with me for 3 months. And in 3 months, you'll come out 60, 70% the Scrum Master I am, or probably more, because I'm obviously old now. But if you're young and adaptive and having fun, you'll probably learn it quicker than I would. But I'm a big believer in that almost apprenticeship style. Is that getting popular over in the USA at all, or longer sessions?
Well, it's funny. I noticed a trend, and I did this trend beforehand because I just want to get better at coaching. I wanted more practice, and they started doing these 6-month cohorts where you work with people and you pay a lot of money for it. They ain't cheap, by the way. Not cheap.
Okay.
And I noticed that Scrum Alliance was doing it. I noticed that Scrum.org, Agile, IC Agile, they all started doing this cohort thing about the same time. And I'm like laughing. I said, yeah, that's the Harvard stuff coming in. Because that's what a cohort, they do. They do all cohorts up there.
We have cohorts.
Yeah, they do the group exercise. It's a very British thing.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, and so you can tell I know these things. I'm well-rounded in different things, but But I'm like, okay, but it's good. It's practice in there. But it also
Mm.
depends how they run the cohort too, right?
Yeah.
And what you're doing. But a lot of them are doing it now because they found that. I mean, I like the 2-day course, the 3-day course, just to get you grounded in some fundamentals. But then you need to practice it.
Yeah. You do. And this is so even in my business agility course, Greg, what I do, and IC Agile doesn't actually ask for this, but if you do a live course with me, business agility foundations, what I will do is I'll do the course and then I have a free follow-up coaching session 2, 4, 6 weeks later. And
Yeah.
that's not even enough, but I like it because I get to go, and how did you use it? Did you go through the workbook? Where did you struggle? And I can coach them through it a little bit. I wish IC Agile, for the competency-based ones, like coaching, I wish it would be 2 days in the classroom, and then 1 day sort of like spread over time. That could be quite cool as well. But it's not stopping anyone. Anyone could set up a course like that under IC
Yeah,
Agile.
but you know, when those people charge in US dollars, 150, $200 an hour for a session,
Yeah.
they're not making as much, they start looking at the dollars too. There is a little bit of
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
So I agree with you.
Do you know what we did, Greg? We offered, and we still offer, our IC Agile Business Agility Foundations for $300.
Oh, nice.
The reason why we got so annoyed, I was like, I'm not silly. It's a business decision. It's a lead generator. Blah blah. But I got so annoyed with the industry charging $2,000 per person that I was like, nah. What's the absolute minimal price I could do? And we worked it out. It could be $100, and that's fine. And I was like, well, I'm not going to spend 3 days of my time for like $50. So this, we'll put $300 on there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But and then it goes how many people in the class. You don't want to go giant classes of 30 people when you do the ACC
No.
or
I like 5 to 10. It's a nice number.
yeah, you want to have pairs, right? You want to have a couple,
Yeah.
if you do it, you want to have maybe 1 or 2 tables of 4 or something like that,
Yeah.
max kind of thing. And but
Just to warn you, Greg, your internet connection is unstable. So that's probably a good place to finish then. Are you okay?
I see it.
There you go. But yeah, so Greg, any final words?
No, it was great. Let's do it again sometime. We'll come up with a topic. I think I just lost you.
Yeah, I can hear you. Don't worry. I agree. Let's do again in a. I was thinking 3 months' time, but I was thinking actually maybe sooner. Let's coordinate that because this has been fun, and I actually only got to half my questions. And I agree with you. One of the big things I like about this show is that we get everyone involved, and they ask a whole bunch of questions, which is quite cool. But cool. Thank you very much, Greg.
Do a poll of your audience and find out a topic and what just beat it up.
Well, we have something coming up soon actually that Colart's trying to set up, and that's debates. Trying to find the thesis and the antithesis, and then one of us will basically try to create a synthesis of the two ideas.
Okay.
But at the moment, everyone who comes on the show kind of agrees with everyone. So I'm trying to find people who don't agree with people, so we can find that debate. So we'll go look at that. But thank you very much, Greg. It's been a great time. I've thoroughly enjoyed myself. So much so I say I didn't get through all my questions at all. And it's been almost 2 hours. So I love it when this happens. It's good fun. And thank you for staying up so late because this is almost like 4 o'clock for you.
Yeah, the dogs are asleep.
Exactly.
They're out cold. They're snoring. I don't know if you can hear it, if you can hear the audio, but they're snoring away over here.
Yeah, I thought I heard them a little while ago, but awesome. Well, I'll close off then. How awesome was that? And thank you for everyone. Thank you to Edwin and who else is online? Denisha, Chris. Thank you for your time as well, guys. It's not just us, blabbing on. It's also you guys and your questions and how you reflect on what we're saying and then respond. This is what Agility Matters is all about. It's about adapting to adapting yourselves to respond to what you need to achieve your business outcomes as well. So let's keep that in the back of our minds. That agility is also for your own person. Yes, Greg. So my reflections I've already done. But Greg, how do people find you?
If you want to find me, you can look me on LinkedIn, look for Greg Mester. There's only one of me. There's one in Florida, but just me. 5 a.m. Mester Scrum. So it's all one word. If you do pound 5 a.m. Mester Scrum and any social media podcast, my podcast is top 10 for Agile coaches for the past 2 years in a row.
Nice.
So you can find me on podcast. I think that's how Edwin found me, actually. It was in a podcast.
Awesome. Yeah, and we just canceled our podcast today because we've been live YouTubing now for like 3-4 months, and you guys all seem to watch the live YouTube now rather than listening to my podcast. So thank you very much, everybody, and I will speak to you soon. Good night.
See ya.